Not every story has an answer or an explanation that fits reality. Welcome to Dark Note, where I will tell the personal stories of the unexplainable experiences people have encountered, from strange and mysterious to paranormal activity and more. Like, subscribe, and join me in the immersive accounts that are still waiting for us in the dark. Most things we encounter have explanations behind them, but every so often we find ourselves in uncertainty, only to fade further away from the answer. The story you're about to hear is one that questions all reality and leaves you wondering what's real and what's not. It's up to you to decide. At a young age, Andy had developed a bad habit of smoking cigarettes. He smoked for many years, but around the age of 19, he would have an experience that would change his mind about smoking forever. Andy smoked Camel brand cigarettes, specifically Camel Turkish Royals. He had bought a pack of Camels as he usually did every couple of days or so from the gas station down the road from where he lived. Growing up in a small town, Andy didn't have much to do, so smoking became one of his few daily activities. One afternoon, Andy woke up after staying up late the night before, playing video games and binge-watching his favorite shows. He rolled over and grabbed the pack of Camels he left on the nightstand next to his bed. Andy lightly shook open the pack to find there were no more cigarettes inside. Feeling a little frustrated not being able to have a smoke after sleeping in so late, Andy slipped out of bed and threw on some clothes and started his walk down to the gas station for another pack. On his way there, the thought of not having a cigarette kept weighing heavily on his mind. Slowly, his frustration would build, making Andy even more irritated than before. He felt like the walk was taking forever and just wanted to get his cigarettes as fast as he could. Not wanting to waste any more time, he hurried the rest of the way to the store and inside where he met with the gas station attendant at the counter. "How may I help you today?" asked the attendant. Andy, holding back his frustration, trying not to show it, would ask for a pack of Camel Turkish Royals as he usually did. The attendant scanned the wall of cigarettes and turned back to Andy and told him they were all out of that brand. Andy was already feeling like he was going to explode, so he made the decision to go with a pack of Marlboro Red Shorts, being that in the moment he was in a hurry to get outside and have a cigarette. And at that point, Andy didn't care what brand they were. The attendant examined the wall once more and located the pack of Marlboros Andy requested. The attendant rang them up and set them down on the counter. Andy swiped his card, then grabbed the pack and walked out of the store. He began ripping open the pack and quickly lighting up a cigarette so he could feel some sort of relief from not having smoked for so long. Andy was extremely addicted to smoking and really wanted to quit. It weighed heavily on his mind. He didn't like the feeling of being trapped, but at this point he really didn't see any way out. He was in too deep, and it was probably going to take something life-changing for him to give it up. He didn't know it yet, but that's exactly what he was about to get. A day or two later, Andy would run out of the Marlboros he had purchased a couple of days prior, so like always, he would walk to the store to buy another pack. On this day, Andy would purchase a pack of Camel Blue 100s, since the gas station still hadn't received their shipment, and Andy didn't want another pack of Marlboro Red Shorts. He personally thought they were too harsh for him, so he went with the Camel Blues, feeling like those were a bit more mild. On the walk home, he rummaged through his pockets and realized he forgot his lighter. When he finally made it back home, Andy went up to his room to retrieve it to go back outside for a smoke. As he entered the room, he glanced down at the floor and saw a cigarette laying in the middle of the room. He bent down and picked it up and saw that it was a Marlboro Red Short from the last pack that he bought. He thought to himself, I guess this had fallen out at some point without me realizing it, so he decided he would just smoke the Marlboro and left the new pack of Camel Blues on the dresser for a later time. Andy carried out his day by finishing up some chores and playing some video games with friends. He had a couple of smoke breaks in between, eventually opening the pack of Camel Blues he had bought earlier that day. He ended the night catching up on a show he was watching that week. Andy woke up the next day and jumped in the shower to get ready to meet up with his friend Craig that lived in the neighborhood. As Andy walked back into his room to get dressed, he saw something out of the corner of his eye laying on the floor near the trash can. He stopped in his tracks and focused his attention on that area of the room. He slowly walked towards the trash can, and as he got closer, he realized it was another cigarette laying on the floor. He reached down and picked it up. It was another Marlboro Red Short. He looked around his room in confusion, but then shrugged it off, not thinking too much of it. Andy continued getting ready for his day to meet up with Craig at the park that was located near their neighborhood. They would smoke cigarettes and talk about different experiences they had throughout their lives. Andy told Craig about the two Marlboros he had found in his room the past couple of days, and how they just appeared in random spots. Craig snickered and made a joke saying maybe you won't ever have to buy a pack of cigarettes ever again. They both laughed about it and then moved on from the conversation. Hours passed and Andy began to feel a little tired, so he split up with Craig and headed home for dinner. After dinner, he would eventually fall asleep watching the same show he was watching the night before. Andy woke up the next day to the light shining in his eyes through the curtains. He sat up in bed, rubbing his eyes, trying to come out of his sleepy daze. He got up and walked out of the room to start with his morning routine. When Andy came back to grab his pack of cigarettes to head out for his smoke, something had caught his attention once again. Looking towards the foot end of his bed, he saw something sticking out from behind the bedpost. He walked over and bent down to get a closer look, and he reached out and grabbed the object, then pulled it out from behind the bedpost. Andy's eyes widened as he realized what it was. There, in his hands, was another Marlboro Red Short. He sat down on the edge of his bed, more confused than before. Is someone trying to pull a prank on me? He thought. Andy still lived at home with his parents and his brother. He was also the only one in his family that smoked cigarettes. He thought about who could be doing this, but it wasn't like anyone in his family to pull pranks on anyone, especially Andy. At dinner that night, he would ask his family if any of them had been in his room, and they would swear up and down they had not. As the days went on, Andy would keep finding Marlboros scattered in different areas of his room. It got to the point where Andy would almost tear apart his room looking for any trace of a Marlboro Red Short, only to come up empty-handed, but then to enter back into the room sometimes minutes, even seconds later, to find another Marlboro laying in one of the spots he had just previously checked. He began locking his bedroom door and windows each time he left the house, to ensure no one would be able to get into his room. But no matter what precautions he took, the end result was always the same: a Marlboro Red Short. Weeks would pass and Andy would find a total of 67 Marlboro Red Shorts throughout his room. Andy had only bought that one pack of Marlboro Red Shorts that entire year. It just didn't add up. There are only 20 cigarettes in a pack. That's 3 packs plus 7 more cigarettes that Andy couldn't account for. It drove him crazy, sometimes even keeping him up at night. But as fast as it started, it all of a sudden stopped, leaving Andy with no explanation or answers to why this ever happened in the first place. But every so often, it still crosses his mind. He still wonders how all those cigarettes ended up in his room. But who knows? He may never find the answer. Well, That's it for today's story. Tell me what you think about this encounter down in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more stories. And if you yourself have ever had a strange or mysterious encounter, submit your story and have it told anonymously here on Dark Note. The information will be down in the description. I'll be waiting.